Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, so just good day to everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Conversations on Wealth Management 4.0. This is a biannual webinar organized by Fiduciary Services Limited. So welcome to all our speakers and the participants. Moderating the session, we have our Managing Director, Mercy Edukogwamina. She is a compassionate corporate solicitor, a tax secretary, and administrator. She is also a trust and estate practitioner. She's a governance and sustainability enthusiast, and she's a venture capital fellow and founder. So right now, we're welcoming Mercy to moderate the session. Thank you. Mercy.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, goodness. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I'm hoping you can see me. I'm just going to ask the team to just spotlight me, please. Okay, so thank you so much everyone for joining us this morning. It's really awesome to have us here today. Without much ado, Goodness had already introduced us to what we'll be discussing today. So this is a biannual conversation where we have, based on things that have arisen during the course of the year or during the course of earlier part of the year, 6 months of the year, or the later 6 months of the year. It comes up in January and media, where we just look at all the concerns and issues that our clients have addressed for us during the period. What are the challenges we faced? What are the issues we've had to work through clients with? And we try to articulate that and try to put that out there such that we are able to help other clients and other people, advisors as well, that have similar issues or have similar concerns. So thank you for our speakers who are already here. And I know that we're a bit pressed for time. I know Loius has said he has one or two things he has to get to. So we'll try to get into the conversations early as well. So basically, we are just going to be talking about family business structures and how we can optimize those structures. We look at the legal, financial, and practical insights of being able to optimize those structures for family businesses. I will also look at what the impact of the AFCFTA would be for businesses that are within the African continent and trying to expand, or other concerns that they will have. Loius is an expert. Loius Yaw Afful, he's part of our speakers, is an expert in this field. So definitely, please keep that locked down. You're going to have a status update and every other thing you need to know when it comes to family businesses and cross-border integration and business opportunities. We'll also look at IFCs as well. And we have Madhvi and Faiz that are here to walk us through that whole system and the processes that are involved. As part of what we do, we kind of try to set the tone when we start this webinars. And in setting the tone, we are in Lagos, Nigeria. That's where our business is. That's where Fiduciary Services is. And currently in the country, there is a bit of quiet calm. We don't know whether there's going to be any storm. We don't pray for any storm, but just as we had it in East Africa with the Kenya, the Gen Z's uprising and trying to stamp out bad governance and policies that don't benefit, you have the Nigerian citizenry saying that when it comes to bad governance and other allied issues, they really want to put a stamp on it. So today is where we're supposed to have the protest start off. We don't know when it's going to end, maybe a couple of days. But but it's very germane that we talk about it because we are currently operating from Lagos, Nigeria. So that said, we hope that the protest and the resolutions or the agreements that will be reached would end up being beneficial for the average Nigeria, especially the teeming youth population that we have. We also have the Olympics going on in Paris. So for those of us that like different sports, that's also going on in Paris as well. In 2 days in June, we had the African Family Business Summit. It was a fantastic collection of family business experts, family businesses, and advisors. We had advisors coming from the US, coming from Switzerland, all parts of the world. Advisors were there, and it was a fantastic convergence where we talked about governing the family business into the future. And we know that the family business, as a business, I mean, you have your mom and pop stores where they start off. If you look at the history of most of the conglomerates that we have today, they started off as a husband and a wife, metamorphosing into bringing other people into the business and becoming the large conglomerates that they have. There has to be somebody who has that vision, who has that drive, who has that passion, and wants to make sure that he's able to feed his family first off. Then before you know what's happening, as the businesses progress and all that, you now have to start looking at the broader issues that come into play. So we had fantastic sessions where we discussed everything family business, from the next gen to wealth preservation to everything. That it was organized by Ravens Consulting, and we always give our thumbs up to Dennis Oteng, who is a colleague, a professional colleague, and also a friend. We supported the AFBS as event partners, so you could check our website. If you missed it, you could check our website for all the updates, for all the materials, as well as the AFBS portal for all the resources. And also keep an eye out for the 2025 iteration of the event. It's always a fantastic gathering of African family businesses, advisors, and their experts. Looking at other things that have transpired within the year, I mean, we are just in 1st of August. So happy New Month to everyone. If you like the kind of, I know a lot of people don't like the Happy New Month salutation, but within the wealth management space globally, we've had some significant impact. We've had the UK government change. So when we had the Conservative Party, there's a lot of conversation around non-dom programs. And right now, with the Labour Party in, you have a lot of wealth advisors, really, and families anxious about what will happen to that program. Just a couple of days ago, about 2 weeks or less than that, we were all shocked when Joe Biden stepped down from his campaign and handed the reins over to Kamala Harris. Kamala is still in a honeymoon phase. We don't know where the honeymoon phase is going to go out, and she will have to deal with the Republican candidates and all the things that are going there. All these issues, if you look at it, they impact us, they impact the work that we do for clients, they also impact their businesses as well. Within the space of philanthropy, we've seen some trends that have been absolutely fantastic and just interesting to study. If you're into movies, I'm somebody that likes movies a lot. So we had Origin. Origin is a adaptation of a book, a very controversial, or let me say, explosive book written. And nobody thought that it could be adapted into a movie. But if you follow Abayomi, she's one of the very good, I mean, she's a fantastic storyteller. He adapted the book, but one interesting thing about it is the book, the film couldn't get traditional funding. There was no traditional funding because it was considered to be a prestige film, no traditional funding. And so what now ended up, I mean, if you look at how they ended up getting finances, you will see that it was through philanthropic organization. So you had the thought to make that film possible. You also had other philanthropy. So you had philanthropists that were interested in having that story told and that story being visible across theaters, and for individuals to watch it. You had them converging and sponsoring that when the traditional ways to finance the films were not available. And very important also is also the Patagonia issue of philanthropy, how the trends are changing when it comes to philanthropic and what are philanthropic endeavors that clients are contributing to. You had Patagonia, where the company is just set up and giving, already successful company, but already just put into trust for the benefit of the community. And this had nothing to do with, there's nothing like the family here, but just to go give back to the community. You also have Warren Buffett, very long-time friend of Bill Gates and the Melinda Gates Foundation. He has said he's going to put all his assets when he's dead into a charitable vehicle that will be managed by his 3 sons. He was going to, initially that was supposed to be under the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but he's since changed his mind. Now, if we look at other things that have happened, we've had giftings that have just been in the billions. And that ties into the conversations that as advisors we are having with respect to the great wealth transfer. So you have the baby boomers that have made the wealth, that you now have them transferring those wealth, and you're looking at the different structures that they are using. What are the things that are most meaningful to them, and how are they using, what vehicles are they using to transfer that wealth? So that is a trend that we should keep an eye on, as you have a lot of wealth transfer currently ongoing. With investment migration and citizenship, we have Singapore. Now, if you look at 25 years back or thereabout, you wouldn't think that, or maybe even 30 years back, you'll be wondering, Singapore, but look at what Singapore is doing. You can have access to over 190 countries in the world. You just show up with your Singaporean passport and you have access. Meanwhile, other countries don't have that access. So you find out that there really has to be something that they are doing right in Singapore. Every other country pales. So whether you are in Europe or you are in Asia, Japan used to be the one that had that esteem number 1 spot, but you have other countries, Singapore trumping every other country and having the number 1 passport in the world. Now, this appeals to clients that are looking for global mobilization, where they can be able to get in and out of countries without having to go through any hassles with visa or visa restrictions and all that. And if you're a Nigerian, you probably would be happy that the UAE has lifted up the visa ban, and now Nigerians can actually access the UAE under the terms that they've introduced. So that's about a synopsis of it. We'll talk about Nigeria and a bit of the economic headwinds that we are having in Nigeria when we come into the conversations on private clients and private wealth with an emphasis on Nigeria. That said, we will just delve into the introduction. So it's my pleasure to welcome all the speakers here again and set us off. So we'll start with Faiz. Faiz Ragoo is the co-founder and director of Digital Partners Network, Seychelles. He also works from Mauritius as well. He's an entrepreneur in Mauritius and Seychelles. He works in the field of finance, offshore structuring, securities exchange trading platform, and private wealth management. He lived and worked in France for about 6 years. And he also worked as an auditor at KPMG. So we are really happy to have him join us today. We have Anita. Anita has over 35 years of experience in family business consulting. Anita has encountered virtually every challenge imaginable, given her long career span, addressing issues relating to providing solutions to families and their businesses. She plays a crucial role in transforming some of the most complex and emotionally stressed situations for families across the US and abroad. She specializes in helping family-run business break free from stagnation and propel them forward with renewed vigor. Madhvi is the head business development, Rogers Capital, corporate services in Mauritius. Rogers Capital is located in Mauritius. They also have other offices across most of the IFCs. So whether it's in Seychelles, whether you have it in the Bahamas, Caymans, you have Rogers Capitals with a very wide network across those IFCs. Madhvi holds, she's the head of business development, and she brings with her 22 years of experience in global business sector. Her expertise includes business advisory and structuring, global business product development, which includes fund structures, special licenses, captive solutions, outsourcing and client services, and international jurisdiction understanding. We have Ayodele. Ayodele is the managing partner, chief executive of TradePoint Capital. It's a company that specializes in alternative investments. So Ayodele is our private client, is our private investment, private wealth expert when it comes to clients and their investments within the alternative space, not necessarily with your traditional stocks or bonds or equity thereabout. He has over 18 years experience in the financial services industry with specialization in business and market strategy development, project management, business analysis, and wealth management. Ayodele is an ex-ARM group staff member. And yes, he's a certified wealth management professional, business analyst, and corporate transformation expert. We have Loius Yaw Afful with us. Is the Group Executive Director, APN Group, International Trade and Investment Practitioner, and is an AFCFTA consultant. So Loius is our consultant, is our expert consultant in the house today when it comes to AFCFTA, and he's at the forefront when it comes to advocacy, legislation, and every other thing that goes into the AFCFTA within the African continent, and most especially within West Africa. He became the leading pioneer of the AFCFTA in Ghana and Africa. Through APN, he has set the trailblazer for AFCFTA, CSOs, and private sector organizations. He's an international trade practitioner and an AFCFTA expert. Abayomi is an experienced financial professional with global experience in corporate finance, financial planning, analysis, investment management, strategy, and investor relation. Abayomi is also part of our team here at Fiduciary Services Limited. Is also currently a co-founder and director of Pennytree. He has over 13 years of consultancy work, and it cuts across investor relationship, financial technology, business strategy, and growth. So that's a roundup of all our speakers for today. So thank you once again. This session will be into two. We will have two sessions. We'll have the introductory sessions where we'll discuss issues pertaining to the IFC, International Financial Center, the families and their businesses that we serve. And also we would look at the AFCFTA and how it would help businesses within the African continent, especially with a focus on West Africa, because that's where we are in Lagos, Nigeria, and what our clients and what their business executives and also their family members should be looking out for when it comes to harnessing the AFCFTA for their benefit. So without much ado, I would start with asking Loius. So Loius, thank you for coming on and thank you for being with us today. So yes, so Loius, if you kind of just take us through what the status of the AFCFTA is as at today. I know you work closely with the Secretariat, so if you could just walk us through what the current status is, such that we would be up to speed on where we are in Africa. Thank you, Loius.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you just come back again? Sorry.
Okay, so I was saying that you should just give us a status update. Where are we on the AFCFTA?
Okay, all right.
Our conversation today is on family businesses and how they can harness the opportunities that the AFCFTA provides within West Africa and also Africa at large. So you want to give us the status update on where we are?
All right. So the important thing is that I think closely you have about close to 47 to 49 other countries that are fully members. And that is on the trade side, the goods side. And the services, I think they are also close about same 40 40 plus. That is in terms of countries that are full members. There have been a lot of activities in the area of guided trade. That is where currently things are really cooking. In the area of guided trade, what is happening is that countries are coming together to push the intra-African trade. In other words, they are not waiting for individual countries to produce and then give up their offers. But what they are doing now is that, look, 7 countries or 3 countries can come up and say, look, we want to do a special targeted trade among ourselves. We have this lineup of products, and we want to make sure that between these 2 countries or 3 countries, we want to make sure that your goods will come, my goods will come, and we have to ensure that every goods is sold. That is how the guided trade initiative is. It's helping. Ghana, I think, rigged about $60 million, the first one. And Ghana did another one with Tanzania. And the first one, the After Secretariat tried to referee it. There were about 7 countries that were involved. And so it has been very, very effective. Another important thing that is happening, which is very beneficial, is what we call the after trading companies. The ESCFTA secretary realized that, look, it's all about doing business and trading and export and import. So why don't we put those private sector companies together, call them after trading companies, so that these companies can have a common bargain. These companies can have a common competitive and the market accessibility. So, for example, if you have internet service providers as one after trading companies, you get them the market, they come together, they look for the market cumulatively. If you are looking at cashew nut suppliers, you put those companies in that industry, that sector together, you get them a market, they get a good offer. That is the nature of how the after trading companies will look like. So that now it's not like they're waiting for one buyer to be looking for the seller somewhere, the seller no. So that after trading companies will have to be spearheaded by after companies, after organizations within every state party. So if you take Nigeria, your Ministry of Trade is supposed to coordinate that kind of activity. You also look at, if you take Ghana, for example, we have the Ghana After Office that coordinates some of these activities. Another important area which is key, but I'm not seeing a lot of people tapping into, is the ASCFTA tried to secure $1 billion for what we call the Adjustment Facility Fund. That Adjustment Facility Fund is in twofold: to help countries that might be having issues with credit due to the shoring of their tariffs. And then the other part of it is going to support private sector initiatives, companies like your own, my own, every private sector organization. The issue has to do with how it's going to be disbursed. So that is the Adjustment Facility Fund. Then you have the also automotive fund that is about $1 billion as well. With the automotive fund, it's looking at the African automobile industry. This one, purely African origin, which means that you might not necessarily be the one to produce the chassis or the engine, but you can be in that value chain. So, for example, if you have a company that is into the tire manufacturing, you fall within that value chain. If you are within maybe the accessories, you fall within the value chain. And so companies must pitch themselves. Companies must pitch themselves. Individuals must pitch themselves. Which sector, which area do I want to be part of the value chain? Which association do I want to join to go for the bargain? Which state department or which sector in my country, which ministry in my country is focused on this? How do I connect with them? These are 3 key areas that individuals, corporate organizations can assess the importance and benefits of the ESCFTA. It will not come to you when you are where you are. You have to go for it because it's a regional organization. So you have to go for it. For example, those in the extractive industry, we are looking at making sure that no mineral leaves Africa unfinished or unprocessed or refined. Where do you find yourself? You have to visit your mining industry to look for that opportunity. For example, if you take the logistics industry, we don't have a lot of, what do you call it, maritime or ships that really is moving goods or transporting goods on the sea across Africa. So companies like you in Ghana, we had a company called Magdan Trading Company that had an MOU with the Secretariat and said, look, we would like to take up most goods produced within the AfCFTA state parties and move them around or transport. That is very, very important. That's the kind of opportunities I'm talking about. Another key area that we have to look at, and everybody have heard that one, and is doing very well, is the payment and settlement system. Initially, 2 years ago, you had about few banks that were on the grid. We had about few central banks as well that were on the switch. Today, there are more than about 10 central banks and several commercial banks across Africa that are really using the Pan-African payment and settlement system. There are a lot of customers that are giving good testimonies about it. And it's very important because it helps cross-border payment. You don't have to struggle to transfer money in a different currency or in the dollar equivalent to another supplier in a different jurisdiction. What you need to do is to pay in Nigerian currency or Mauritius currency or Seychelles currency. You pay in your local currency and I receive it in my local currency. You leave the headache of the settlement to your central bank and then the affiliation bank pops. This is also very, very important. My last point, but not the least, is that another key area which I will urge a lot of companies to take interest is the services under AfCFTA. It's still untapped. The World Bank estimates about 50% of GDP is going to come from services, from among all, you're going to have about 50% of our GDP is coming from the, services. The good news is that under the services, you have about 12 sectors, or we call them priority sectors. Transport. I want to take my time to break this down so that you know where you find yourself. You have transport. And the transport, you have maritime, you have road, you have aviation, and then you have rail. All these are areas of investment that there can be JVs or joint ventures, or you can have governments coming together. If you take Ghana, for example, we were doing our railway to our northern part, but because of the coming of AfCFTA, we are extending the rail to Burkina Faso. So if Burkina Faso can also join another country to move it closer until we get to Dakar, that is what we mean by these kind of opportunities within the services sector, like transport. I mentioned earlier that Magdan Shipping has taken upon itself to have an MOU with the Secretariat. You see that they will be able to ship all goods or take it upon AfCFTA goods across Africa, which is good, but we don't have a lot of ships. And then again, if you take road, we are happy to announce that you realize that there is this Lagos, Abidjan, Accra corridor. It's a massive, about 6 lanes road, a kind of tunnel system that is going to run between Lagos, Abidjan, Accra. And there's not going to be any traffic. It's going to be very superb. It's going to bring a lot of job creation, a lot of tourism site as well. That is massive. If you go to East Africa, there are other corridors that are also being opened. If you are a contractor, you're a company, and you want to take interest, these are available opportunities. Now, if you go to the other services like financial services, Mauritius is good at financial services. It's like a hub for financial services in Africa. Financial services is part of the services under AfCFTA, which includes insurance, banks, and then financial institutions, fintechs. So if you are within that space, you have opportunity. You know, and for example, if you look at banks, I mean, the likes of EcoBank is almost across most African countries. Now, Messi, if you look at the area of which is also not tapped fully, is education. Education, health services, sports and culture, which is very, very important. These are all opportunities under the services that companies can be formed, organizations can tap into. Professional services, which is key, which we've not talked about. Professional services is also negotiated under the AfCFTA, which involves professionals, drivers, accountants, surveyors, what have you. So, for example, if you are in Ghana and you think that the market is choked, the opportunities of job is choked, and you think that I can move to Mauritius to establish my company, If Mauritius says my financial services industry is choked, then I don't need yours. That's fine. The regulatory body will restrict you a bit. But other areas where they would like to receive your services, that means that what you need to do is to be able to move there, because remember, ASEFT is about free movement as well. You have the right to entry, right to establishment. And so it is very, very important to identify which sector you find yourself, which organization, which startup, which industry you find yourself, and then to be able to know what are the terms that those countries offer, what are the market accessibilities in place, what are the logistical opportunities or support that I need to. We can't just say I have cashew nut and that you're going to benefit from the ASEFTA. No, I have cashew nut. Which market do I send to? How do I take it there? How do I get free movement? How do I get visa waived off? These are key issues that the individual or companies are supposed to find out and follow up. The ASEFTA Secretariat and even your ministries of trade are limited in terms of scope and operation. My last point is in one of the areas that I would like us to really look at, which is very, very important. And that has to do with urging our governments to engage in productive, what we call factor productivity. The whole issue we are talking about the ASEFT, with that factor productivity, we are going to be at where we are. And what do I mean by factor productivity? It's part of the indicators of the ASEFT assessment or barometer. Factor productivity means that how are we deploying the labor, capital, land, entrepreneurship, technology? These are factors of production to boost and produce in the economy, goods and services. If we don't produce, if we don't have a lot of factories, manufacturing, industrialization, we are not going to still export. We are going to export our raw unfinished product or less value added product outside Africa for less fair trade. And so it is important that we produce. If we don't produce, we can't export. We will still be import dependent African economy. So it is embedded upon all of us here on this webinar, wherever we find ourselves, to urge our government to support the private sector to establish factories and produce. Again, if they can produce, the ASEFTA opens up what we call the comparative advantage opportunity, whereby I know that maybe Kenya is very good in producing flowers. I don't need to spend so much resources when I know that I cannot. To allow Kenya to do more, and then I focus on my comparative strength. In Ghana, for example, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, everybody was going on his way in terms of cocoa, but we came together to have a bargaining price, because after all, if you take the revenue from chocolate across the world, it is neither from Ghana nor Cote d'Ivoire. It is in Netherlands. That is serious. So why don't we look at a comparative advantage? Why would Nigeria import wheat from Iran? Or why would Nigeria import salt from Brazil when Ghana is next door? Why would Ghana import wheat from somewhere when Nigeria is next door? We need to look at our comparative advantage strengths so that we enable our private sectors, enable our businesses, entrepreneurs to really connect, to really network, to really tap into those comparative vacuums that we have created. This is what we need to do to be able to benefit from the agreement. The agreement in itself is not the end. It is a means to the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Loius. That was such a, very illuminating, very educative status update on the AFCFTA. And rightly, just as you said, which is why we are here, because the family sector, the family businesses that we serve, they account for about 70 to 80% of global GDP, and they create the most jobs. So whether it's the conglomerate, it started from the mom and pop stores, and you have them into big, massive enterprises today, they account for over 50 to 80% of all jobs across the, globally, and Africa as well. So really very, very important that this understanding of what the AFCFTA stands to benefit these businesses, and just if you're talking about diversification as well, is very, very important, but just harnessing the value that you get. You find that a lot of the concentration that we have is a lot of exports out of the country into Europe, Asia, or
just a
North
minute.
America.
Sorry, Mercy, sorry, just to cut just a minute. I just wanted to add tourism, which is one of the services. And tourism, World Bank also projects it brings a lot of revenues. If you take tourism destinations in Africa, you can account that we have two best destinations apart from Seychelles and Mauritius. There are others that are springing up. Now, I want to ask you, how practical can we be when we come to tourism? We have to be very scientific about tourism, what do you call it, build up or diversification. I'm saying this because it's really a hard currency earner. If we really develop our tourism sector in infrastructure, the people themselves, their culture. Look, it's not because my friends are from Seychelles, but I keep saying that when I entered Seychelles, one first message I got was that this country is really ready for tourism. Why? Right from the airport through they have the cattle range, which is having these cable cars. But some Nigerians will like to take flights, go as far beyond Africa, travel thousands of kilometers, just even to go and patronize a desert. And yet you have this here, but you're not patronizing. If you come to places like Accra, we have the equator, the center of the imaginary line passing through Accra, Tema. But I can say that if you come to where I'm talking about, you will not see any edifice, any investment edifice that shows that this is the center of the earth. If such certain countries like Maldives or whatever, or other countries outside Africa, were the center of the earth, we will do all we can to pay our hard currencies to go and patronize their services. Why don't we harness intra-African tourism? Because tourism has value chains, like job chains, like the tourism guide. You can get job there. You look at the hospitality, hotels and restaurants, they're all part of it. And the destination site itself. So I think it's one of the areas I'm pushing so much, tourism, because whatever you do, these have come to stay. And it's about time we conserve our hard currency by really developing our tourism sectors with infrastructure and then the culture of the people to really patronize their own offer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Loius. I mean, these are fantastic contributions for where we could innovate and where we could look for ways to make it better. Really, just thinking about it, I'm just thinking about, I mean, if families, enterprising families want to innovate into the future and tap into the potentials in the future, then, I mean, these are areas that would be very viable, especially where there is passion and there is desire to get it done. So it's not really going about retooling the existing wheel, but just looking at what are the other areas that we could metamorphose as a family and as a business into, that will be able to have first mover advantage and also set the tone and set the pace for that. So thank you so much for the highlight you've made on tourism, Loius, and please keep doing what you are doing. What I would like to say is that we do have challenges. I mean, just sitting here in Nigeria and looking at all the things that all the benefits that family businesses or even general enterprises could take advantage of, you would be looking at, do we have cohesion between the private sector players as well as the government? Because we know that the AFCFTA is largely focused on government agencies championing it. So do we have that engagement? Do we still have the steam for it? I know that about 2 years ago there was a lot of energy exerted in this. Is that energy still there, or has that energy waned? And how can we keep the conversations going and keep the energy? And these are the kind of things that we need to bring to the fore. But in Nigeria right now, we are struggling with infrastructural challenges, healthcare, education, bad roads, and insecurity. So there's a lot of challenges that seems that we need to surmount, and also with capital investment. But just having the right governance system in place probably would help us to be able to harness these benefits, and not necessarily for us today, but in building that secured future for the children of tomorrow, for the children of now, today, and the ones that are already becoming young adults. So these are key issues that as practitioners, as family business owners, as advisors, that we need to keep an eye on, and also make sure that we stay on top of these issues. So thank you so much once again, Loius, for sharing your insights on that. So we'll come back to you with more questions. I will turn my attention now to Madhvi. Madhvi, please just run us through what are international financial centers. When Loius was speaking, he was reeling them off. He was calling Seychelles, he was calling Mauritius, he was calling. So, what is it about? And is there any uniqueness about it? And as a business, as a enterprising business, why should I be concerned? I have my factories here in Nigeria, and yeah, I'm getting revenues. Why should I be concerned? Why should I look out of where I am right now? So, Madhvi, if you want to run us through what you do and why you do what you do, and the kind of benefits that we would get from when we engage with your services, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mercy, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. I'll go straight to the point. Before Loius ended his conversation, you stated quite a lot of challenges that people in Nigeria are facing, and this is not in Nigeria. It is a problem also in other African countries. So why Mauritius and Seychelles keeps on coming? Because Mauritius is known to be a very trusted IFC in the African market. And what is an IFC? An IFC is a center that provides you with a physical location with an enabling ecosystem putting in place for international clients to facilitate their international activity. And the IFCs like Mauritius, they will definitely have all the regulatory framework in place to be able to service international clients. So we need to abide with all the international norms that are dominating the financial sector to be in the whitelist, and that gives a major comfort to international clients to use an IFC as Mauritius. Now, why and what's the role we play is simply because IFCs like Mauritius, they are mostly very stable jurisdictions with a very stable political stability framework. It has all the regulatory rules, regulations put in place to service international clientele. Mauritius, now today, we can say it has a literacy rate of 95%. So in every houses, you will have a professional living in there. So Mauritius has the capabilities to assist, take care of the assets that has been built by African family. And also on top of that, IFCs like Mauritius, we don't have any exchange control. We do offshore activities on core currencies such as USD, GBP, Euro. These are currencies you don't fear to have like huge depreciation like our friend Zambia is facing. They are having a huge depreciation with their kwacha, and it's becoming very challenging for them to do international business. On top of that, we have a very good banking system that you don't need to be present in Mauritius to operate it. You can live in Nigeria, you can live in Rwanda, you can live in Uganda, still have access to a platform that is very efficient, and you still manage your banking activities. So that ecosystem, that security that you need in your business, as well as for your future family succession, the IFC can provide that, and Mauritius can provide that.
Okay, thank you for that, Madhvi. Just as a follow-up question from that, what are the different? So, if I'm a family business matriarch or patriarch, and I'm probably in my first generation, or maybe I'm in my second generation. What would be the structures and the attractions? So I hear you with respect to exchange controls. I hear you with respect to stable political climate. I hear you with respect to being able to service very good banking network, and also being able to service international clients. But I mean, can't I have that in Nigeria as well? So it's more or less like, what are the other attractions? Because these ones are, I mean, they are attractions. And I also I don't know whether you spoke about, but just let us have more benefits, such that, and what would those structures look like? I mean, what are the different types of structures that we could? Because I'm just sitting down here, I'm like, okay, we have, I mean, if we do get our governance rights, our public governance rights, we probably would be able to have most of the things you've talked about. But what are the other things that you would want to bring to the attention of our audience today, who are owners of family businesses, who are next generations within their businesses, and even and just looking for how they can optimize international financial centers within the African corridor?
So, well, the IFCs, like Mauritius, they have a track record which has been tested, used, and the people who manage such structures like trust, foundation, Mauritius has put in place lots of laws to cater for different types of products, offering it to the international market. It can be a commercial business, which can be structured in a company, in a partnership. It can be like a family coming for commercial activities, but at the same time, they want to already plan for the asset protection and family succession. They can put it in trust, in foundations. And the benefits of having a trust foundations with a commercial activity in an IFC like Mauritius is that you have lots of tax incentive. There is no if you structure your businesses and family succession well in an IFC, you can avoid huge legal costs. You can put in place structures, so if tomorrow some unexpected events happens in your businesses or in your with a family member, we will trust a foundation in place in a jurisdictions which will stand for long. You can preserve your legacy. With a trust in a foundations, you can easily identify in advance, say even after you're expecting your distribution of assets to be done in 20 or 30 years time, but in advance, before, you can already identify, put in place all the arrangement to secure your legacies that you're being generating by doing businesses in different African countries. And that you need to put it in a jurisdiction who can manage it, who has qualified people. When you're putting your assets in a trusted service provider, you can sleep at peace. You don't have that fear that after 5 years, what will happen? There will be a hijack or an unstable situation. the currency will go down, I'm going to lose everything, or the service provider may fail in its duties. The probability with an IFC which have a track record is very, very minimal. So I think that's the things that we bring forward to international clients. On top of that, we have institutional and other authorities in place. We have all sorts of laws available to protect the international investors. We have in place around 46 investment protection, promotion and protection agreement in place to protect international investors. We have double taxation agreement in place to ensure that the taxes are not being overcharged twice or thrice in different jurisdictions. So all these are put in place. We have it to be able to service the international clientele.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madhvi. Just two questions that I think are very pertinent, and we've had to deal with such concerns from our clients. Is what the cost? Number one, the cost for having these structures, and what are the operational efficiencies that this structure provides, so that you don't just, so like we'll say, you would run from one issue and you just get yourself into a wider, a broader challenges and issues. So when it comes to cost comparatively, how do Mauritius and other jurisdictions that Roger Capital operates in, how do they fare? And also looking at the operational efficiency, because really everybody wants to be able to run their businesses globally efficiently. So yeah, so let's hear you there.
So the cost definitely Mauritius is a cost-efficient jurisdiction compared if you go to Singapore, Hong Kong, or Jersey, Guernsey. It's like it's 3-4 times higher. I've worked for structures in Singapore, so I can definitely compare that. That's having said, Mauritius, together with Seychelles, we allowed all sorts of cost, how do you call it? Cost management or cost efficient structures. Some clients, they would want to have a structure with higher substance, with a proper audited accounts, and with proper control being finalized, listed each and every year. There is structures like GBL which provide all these comfort. But of course, if there is one individual, there is one family, they want to have a cost-efficient structures. We do have authorized companies and IBCs where the cost is compared to an GBL is much lesser. So Mauritius as a jurisdiction, it caters for different products, for different level, different type of needs of the international investors. Have I answered your question?
Thank you. Yes. That's yeah. So yeah. But operationally, I know that apart from the banking, I'm just saying that because what's coming to my head is documentation. How do I get things signed off? How do I meet? I mean, I know that we are really living in a digital space. I mean, in an AI dominated space. So really, we don't have to travel length and breadth to be able to get things done. So things like documentation processes, things like prompt service delivery, making inquiries, as well as meetings, having meetings, and being able to attract foreign investors into the, I mean, if we have an SPV in Mauritius or say Seychelles, being able to have those meetings where we are able to put our pitches and are able to source for capital financing and all that. So I'm just looking at the operational efficiencies that Mauritius or Seychelles does provide.
So for the operational side, in fact, I have missed it indeed. Thanks to remind me. The thing is, you don't need to be physically present to do a structure. The jurisdiction and IFC is structured in such a way there is regulators who puts various rules and regulations, and they have captured these rules and regulations based on international norms like the FATF recommendation and everything. They put in place rules and regulations for service providers to ensure that when they are going to service their clients, there is efficiency at all levels. So as a management company, every 2-3 years we have regulators visit. Prior to getting a license to be able to service international clients, we need to put in place all the compliance manual, the compliance forms. Everything should be documented in such a way that when you start your business, FSC will have a clear indication what you are doing, and they come and verify each 2 to 3 years. In fact, this week we had the regulators at our end to verify our processes. So that's the first securities that clients have, that the regulators are always on our back. And not only the regulators, but the FATF members also will come and check our regulators. So we have that international oversight, which is cascaded locally. So at the end, we are always being overseas by regulators or higher level international members. So that's the securities that gives international clients, affirming, ensuring that the operation side will always be to a level. Because otherwise, I would not be here if this was not the case. We have quite a lot of...
Okay, yeah, fantastic.
And how the banking system works is that we have a very efficient banking system online. All the banks in Mauritius provide such a strong, robust banking system that you can easily manage it from overseas. Now coming to the documentation information, this is where we come into. We are the support service. Whenever the clients need something or something is not working, they will come to us. We will assist via emails, via calls. We are reachable. We are very flexible. Whenever there is documentation to be sent in original for the purpose to meet the requirements of the jurisdiction, we will guide them. They can courier it, but it always being sent via emails. We will validate it. We will ensure that it is in compliance with the rules, be it in Mauritius or in Seychelles. And once they have, we have validated it, we will let them know they can courier it to our service address. So there is a whole ecosystem in place that will give support to international investors to make sure that when they are creating an entity, they can use it, focus on the international activities, leave the support part we are here to do.
Mercy, if I can add on what Madhvi has been
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yes, I was going to come to you, Faiz, and I was going to tell you that you need to give us your own perspective on IFCs.
Madhvi
yes, from where you sit.
Madhvi already painted such a nice picture of what an IFC is, and thank you for that, Madhvi. But going to the subject of family businesses and how a family business can use an IFC, I will maybe drop a little bit more into the details. When you are heading a family business, whether it's your creation or you have inherited that business, what is very important, and Madhvi highlighted it, is the estate planning. How do you plan the succession of this family business? First thing that comes to your mind is that if you're the first one, the creator, you have a personal attachment. Like if like it was your baby that you have created. This company means a lot to you. So you want that company to thrive and to keep prosper in the future for the generations to come. And let's face the fact, most of the time when you're looking at IFCs means that your family business is already doing well in terms of cash flows. So that may be another point. So apart from the estate planning side, how do you want your business to be continued after you are not there to assist in the business? So that can be helped through trust, where you can have protector beneficiaries, and the way you want to structure this, maybe to have a nominated board with members of your families plus a business person, because most of the time what we've seen with family business is that if you leave the family business in the hands only of the family, it doesn't last within generations. So you need to put some what I have the French terms, what we call garde-fou. So you need to have those watchtowers that will be
the guardrails.
Yeah, with guardrails, exactly. So those guardrails will be there to avoid any unwanted strategic decision. So by doing that, you can structure this as a trust, and having the protectors being members of the board that will allow that company to thrive and allow generations to come after you to benefit from the positive cash flows of your business. So this is one of the major points that I would see using an IFC, using trust, foundation, whatever, but to structure that so that your business keeps on thriving. And the second thing would be, and we have to be clear, IFCs have their importance in the fact that they are tax efficient structures. They exist for that purpose. So the tax efficiency takes all its ground, where you can see the benefit in paying less taxes in your current jurisdiction. So that way you can move your holding, your administrative side. You were talking about a factory. You have a factory in Nigeria. What you can't move your factory. That would be insane, because it's already doing well. You have all your process put into place. But what you can do is move your administration outside of Nigeria, then having part of your revenue moved out in an IFC, so that it will give you a tax efficient structure within your group. So and most of the time, how you have to weight it is the amount of tax I'm paying in my country worth moving to another country? Because moving to an IFC, there are costs related to it, and you have to weight it, and it's a simple calculation. You know how much tax you're paying, you know how much tax you will be paying, looking at your forecast, and talking with people like us, you will know what are the costs related to setting up in an IFC, whatever the jurisdiction of your choice may be. There are jurisdictions, like Madhvi said, that are less expensive than others, and the level of transparency, the level of services depends a lot on this. Mauritius, being one of the primes, is in the African region one of the most looked after, but there are also other options depending on what you're willing to spend versus the service that you're willing to get. So these two things are, for me, the most important when you're talking about family business, in the way that how you want your business to continue after you're not here to take care of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Faiz. I want us to quickly address, I know that, I mean, one of the key things you said, which kind of puts a lot of things into perspective, is the fact that the businesses or the enterprises that we're addressing have to be doing very well as it is, or even if they are not even doing very well at the moment, with very good cash flows and revenue generating businesses. They should also, maybe they are in their early stages of growth, they should really be thinking about this because of the diversification opportunities that it provides, and all the other things that Madhvi had earlier noted, with respect to being able to attract, using these IFCs as a vehicle to be able to attract funding, and also enjoy the transparency that it also provides for international funders as well, to be able to provide those capital investment that are much needed for either expansion or other things, as well as also succession planning or transition planning, as you would have it. But let's delve into what are the concerns I would have legally? So I'm doing so well as a family business. I'm probably still in my first generation, but heading towards, having to bring up the second generation or even the third generation. And there is progress going on within the enterprise. What are the legal and financial concerns that I should have or I should take into consideration when I'm looking at an IFC? Yeah, Faiz, that was for you. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, the considerations when whether your business is successful or not, you have the better understanding of your business, and you know where your business is heading. Whether your forecast shows that there will be a growth somewhere somehow, or just whether because you know intrinsically that this is your baby and you want it to keep on continue, and at some point in time it will bring some positive feedback. So for me, what you should, the legal aspects obviously are the fiscality when you're doing estate planning. So for instance, if you have a trust based in Mauritius or in Seychelles, when you are transferring your shares or any assets that you have within these trusts, there will be no tax implication as per se, because they will be already moved into that trust, and the beneficiaries of that trust will be eligible to have hands-on on these assets without fearing any tax implication. I'm really not that much focused on the fiscality in Africa, but for instance, if you compare it to Europe and what most entrepreneurs in Europe do, they like to move their holding, or they like to move the administrative side of their business into Mauritius. So because of they know at some point in time when they will be transferring their shares to the next generation, there will be some tax implications, and that can go up to 40%, depending on where you are in Europe. So if such is the case for certain countries in Africa, there's definitely a need to look into that. What are the tax implications when I will be giving the shares of my companies to the succession, to my hires? And then again, I will come on that point, because this is why we go to IFCs. It's the tax implication, the corporate taxes. If you know that your company will be impacted in some way or another by huge tax, you know that legally you have the right to do a tax efficient structure somewhere else, where you can have substance, offices, people working in those jurisdictions to give substance to what you are doing, but also decreasing the cost. So maybe if your company is not doing that well, it might be because of some elevated costs that you can bring down by looking into some IFCs. So these for me are the two most important aspects.
Okay, so Madhvi, you want to add to that?
Yes, I want to add one more thing. You know, when Faiz is talking about having your commercial business, but having also a trust holding it, the purpose sometimes why you do it is to protect your family legacy against creditors. Once you have put your assets in a trust, It is for the beneficiaries which are yet to be distributed. The settlor takes the assets, put it in a trust for the benefits of his family members. And if tomorrow, because we know like businesses, it comes with a huge commercial risk. If tomorrow the settlor is facing some commercial legal aspect, or you know, he's fallen into a huge debt, whatever assets he has already secured in the trust, the creditor is going to claim on that trust asset because it belongs to the trust and it is for the beneficiary. So at least the settlor can secure part of its family legacy assets in a structure where he's sure that no one is going to touch it. No one can touch it. So that's also an advantage of choosing a proper, well-efficient IFCs, and you park your assets legacies in that.
Okay, so Faiz, just as we're rounding up this part of the conversation, I know that there are significant compliance regimes, and I can say from the work we've done, in meeting challenges in other jurisdictions. So you're looking at either the Caymans, or you're looking at Jersey, or you're looking at other jurisdictions. You find out that there is this. You find out that if you're an African, if you're an African, that's one. If you're now a Nigerian citizen or it's Nigerian business, you find out that there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to those jurisdictions, especially on the islands, and all that, and the compliance regime that you have to work through, and just understanding the nuances of our business operations as Africans. So from my own experience, our own experience is that when you have the Seychelles and the Mauritius, there tend to be an understanding of how, as an African business, what are the nuances that you would see in dealing with those businesses as against what you would have when you are trying to approach other IFCs, whether it's in Jersey or off the coast of UK. But that said, I want to look at the compliance regime because they are global compliance regimes. We have the common reporting standards, we have the economic substance rules, and I mean, we all know what the AFCFTA does every time to just kind of clamp down on money laundering and terrorist financing. So where do Mauritius, where do the IFCs, Faiz and Madhvi, this is for you, where do you stand, and how do you help clients such that they don't get overwhelmed with the compliance regime that they have to face when they are trying to, make their businesses operationally efficient and benefit from all the things that an IFC can provide for them, such that they don't get more boxed in and more overwhelmed with what they have to comply with when they go offshore?
So for me, like, again, I'll come back to that, the choice of the African family to choose a proper IFC. You know, Mauritius being part of Africa, culturally, we all alike. So we have that expertise to deal with European countries, Asian countries, but at the same time, we are a gateway to Africa. So we understand both sides of the coin. And given you rightly said, we follow the international norms. And we know we have the expertise. If something there is, like if we are having issues with a UK bank, we will be able to justify and facilitate that processing of a money or transactions, because we know how it should be done. Compared to a person who is based in Nigeria, maybe they don't have that exposure, it becomes more challenging. So again, choosing the right IFC and the right service provider is core in such type of structuring.
Okay, Faiz, do you want to speak to that as well? Yeah, I mean, the compliance burden, if any, that clients can face when they are trying to go offshore.
So for me, it's not about being a burden or not. Compliance is here to bring legitimacy, to bring comfort to anyone. So for me, if you look at compliance in that spectrum, it's the wrong way of looking at it. You must be thinking of what they are doing to me, they are doing to everyone within that IFC, so that it makes everything more transparent with regards to the regulators, not with regards to everyone else, but with regards to the regulators in that particular jurisdiction. So for instance, if they are asking you for source of fund, proof of funds, just know that they are asking this for everyone else. That makes the IFC stronger. So that you have strong basis, and that you will not have, for instance, scammers being able to enter an IFC and bringing that IFC down. You have highly regulated structures, specialized license that have a lot of scrutiny on the KYC and the compliance side. The thing is, for me, this shouldn't be looked at as being a burden. And most of the time, you will have your corporate service provider taking care of that, but you will still have to provide the documents. Unfortunately, this is the part where the service provider can't do anything but take the document, assess it, and forward it to the regulators for them to check these documents. That for me is not a burden. That for me is a proof that everything is being done to give legitimacy and give more trust into that IFC. And if just to add to what Madhvi said, if you're looking at different IFCs and you wonder which one you should go for, and if you're looking for more comfort, more transparency, you should look at the FATF list. So there's a black list, a gray list, and a white list. So basically, once you look at that list, you will be able to rank your IFC, know where you're going, what are the risks associated with going into one rather than another, and that's for me is the basis. So FATF gives that ranking, whether you are a high-risk jurisdiction or a low-risk jurisdiction, and that comes with the compliance framework that you're applying in that jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you so much. So we'll just quickly go back to, Madhvi.
I just want to add, I completely concur with what Faiz said, because compliance is here to give more governance to the jurisdictions and to the structures. And it is a security for the investors, not the contrary. And there are set rules, conditions for requirements. So it will be there. We as service providers, we will facilitate the collation, because we know we know what alternatives requires. Sometimes when you don't know, you're not in that field, you struggle with one particular paper, but when you can have alternatives, this is where we come and facilitate. But compliance is not a burden, it's there to support.
Okay, thank you so much, Madhvi. So I'll quickly go back to Loius. We are rounding up this session now, this part of the session. I'm going to go back to Loius and ask Loius, where do we go from here? I know we've tried to look at the AFCFTA, and I know that it's the IFC, International Financial Centers, is something that you have a very good grounded understanding and knowledge around. So how do you marry it? How do you marry the AFCFTA, what it's supposed to do for the continent, and on the other hand, what the IFCs are to do? And just give us your concluding comments as well after you've discussed this, after you've made your views on this question.
Well, I mean, thank you. For me, I would like to look at it in general, especially roping in regional financial institutions as well, regional financial houses as well. Where do we go from here? It is not an agreement. The AFCFTA is a wealth package for Africans. We have to embrace that so that we will begin to look at the legislations, we begin to look at, yes, I agree with compliance, we begin to look at how our systems really are ready or prepared to really accommodate investment. For example, we are now pushing what we call Africa Direct Investment. That is where we're heading towards now. There's going to be a program in Rwanda called the Africa Business Forum. It is like the African type of economic forum. It is open to businesses everywhere. Now, I raised the regional financial institutions because the Afrexim Bank and African Development Bank, for example, have been tasked to finance activities on the continent. These are banks that we are told our governments have bigger shares. But I tell you, Mercy, I personally sometimes worry because, yeah, they do well, but I don't see much of their impact when it comes to helping grow business and direct accessibility of support to companies or startups. They focus too much on conferences, programs that are more of theoretical. For example, if you have a bank in the European Union, EU, an EU bank is giving a company in Spain a less credit interest of less than about 2%. And you come to Africa and a regional bank that is supposed to finance ASCFTA, import and export, or finance agribusiness, or what have you, is giving interest rate of about 7% to 8%. If you compare that country, that company in Spain, or in Europe, or European Union, and one African market, give them 5 years, there's nowhere that the company under ASCFTA or within the African environment will do better. So these regional banks should really look and rewrite their portfolios. They should look at exactly their financial support packages. If they are channeling it through national banks or national commercial banks, it should be very, very flexible and moderate. I give you an example of MasterCard Foundation. Have you observed what they are doing currently? MasterCard is not an African product. It is an American product. But what are they doing? They are directly engaging businesses and startups and cushioning them with capital to enable them to be on their feet. Is that what our regional banks are doing? No. We need to look at, because without trade finance, it's going to be very difficult for the export and import and productive basis of our economies to thrive vis-a-vis trade. And we'll always be doing what we call, because we, especially by extension, when we don't have any import substitution policies across business environment. I would like to add finally, my point is that there is a lot of growth in fintechs, and I support the growth of fintechs because we are estimating that we are losing over $5 billion to other multinationals if we don't grow our fintechs, if we don't grow our digital economy. Now there is a protocol on digital trade and then women and youth, but the digital trade, I keep saying, you can never have a strong digital base when you don't have the foundation which has to do with productivity. You can call for e-ticket to travel, but you can never have an e-aeroplane. If you don't manufacture that aeroplane, you will still be an import economy. That is one of the things I urge fintechs to really continue to grow. I urge startups. If you are a startup for more than 6 years, know that you are not a startup. There is a problem. You need to find out why. Finally, we need to look at the ASCFTA as a wealth sharing, a wealth transferring opportunity. And how do we do that? When we begin to network well, when we begin to move our capital from country to country, when we begin to patronize our services, and then we can be able to say that, look, when it comes to input manufacturing, I don't have that upper hand, so I will import from outside Europe. The next step is building our technology from how small it is. Let's develop appropriate technologies and utilize them. Thank you. And I want to wish all my friends and all my colleagues and all my colleague speakers very well. Thank you for inviting me as well.
Thank you so much, Loius. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that everyone that has listened in and just hear you talk, like I said, Loius is an expert, is also a very passionate Pan-African voice. So Loius, thank you so much for making our time for us. And for anyone that wants to reach out to Loius, Loius is available. He's already put his email. You could always send him an email. He is available. I've never seen someone that is this available when it comes to providing the relevant guidance in navigating the AFCFTA, navigating the issues. So whether you want to come in to support the initiatives across, or whether you want to just take one initiative, just want to understand where the AFCFTA is and how you can drive those initiatives with your local trade ministries and all that, Loius is available to be able to help you to package, to put that all together. And you can also reach out to us as well, and we will make sure that we also do the appropriate networking to link you up with Loius. So Loius, thank you so much for your time. I know that you are indeed pressed. So Madhvi and Faiz, we are going to take your concluding comments. And the last question I'm going to be asking you is, as advisors, as service providers, what are the trends and the dynamics that you are seeing that are shaping the lives and legacies of affluent family of affluent and high net worth individuals, their families and their businesses? So what are those things that we should be concerned, or we should look out for within your space of operation?
So from my own experience, like I've said, I've been in this field for more than 20 years. When I started my career, mostly it was clientele based in Europe or Asian who used to go for IFCs to do their business structuring. But since the past 10 to 15 years, I should say that we have noticed a huge evolution where now in our portfolio, instead of 90, there is a balance like 40% of our clientele, they are from Africa or they are investing into Africa. So I believe there is a huge evolution. It's going to grow. And these African family needs sophisticated professionals to assist them and to make sure that their legacies are maintained. So this is what my personal experience has been.
Okay, so I was going to ask, how is Mauritius and other IFCs within the African continent that you serve, how are they looking at the AFCFTA, and what policies or what initiatives are you driving in that direction for the African continent?
Yeah, we have a proper law of CFTA put in place that we need to respect. In our own manual, we need to create a specific manual for AML CFT. So you see, there is
no. I'm not talking about money laundering or counter financial terrorism or proliferation of no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, the one that Loius spoke about. Yes. So how as an IFC and as a service provider, as an IFC jurisdiction and as a service provider, how are you driving initiatives that would benefit? Like Loius said, the AFCFTA is a wealth package. Yeah. It's not just for today's wealth, it's for the future wealth of Africans. Yeah. So how are the IFC, whether it's Seychelles, whether it's Mauritius, how are you driving initiatives that would create this awareness and be able to help with different bottlenecks that enterprising families may face?
Well, you know, when we have clientele, we do also vouch on our how do you call the being part of groups like COMESA, SADC, lots of agreements that has been put in place to facilitate entering the African market. So that's also there. Whenever you need to have to reap the advantages of these conventions or agreements put in place to benefits within the African market, we put in place, so we explain our clients that this is what we have, and you can benefit because there is free transactions going on, or reduced costs going on. So all these are, we are there. We are part of COMISA. We are part of SADC, and definitely we are part of Africa. Let's be on the higher level. We are part of Africa, so we will definitely promoting that, being part of it, participating, promoting it. So this is part of our culture now.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, Faiz, over to you. Your concluding comments on what are the trends and dynamics that you're seeing, and also how as an IFC, an advisor within the IFC, are you channeling the AFCFTA initiatives to ensure that at the end of the day, Africans become wealthy in their own land?
Sure. So for me, I will go back to what Madhvi said. We're seeing a huge change in the geographical representation of our clientele, which was much more European. Before European, it was much more US. But sorry, I'm very sorry. I can't put my video on. I've already started moving, so you will see a lot of things. I'm on a site, so if you don't mind me speaking without the video. So basically,
go ahead. Yeah.
Basically, what we can see now is that there's more and more African using the IFC's services, whether it's in Seychelles or it's in Mauritius, as well as the BRICS countries. We can see that there's much more Russian Asians using the IFCs, but a lot of African countries are represented into our portfolios right now. And the other trend I'm seeing, like Loius did mention, and like I do work in that field, is the use of what we call fintech. So whether it's digital assets, whether it's blockchains within operations of a company to give more trust to the process, whether it's the purchasing process, whether it's an internal process on a private blockchain, whether it is the use for some countries that don't have access to liquidity with regards to USD, they can move to USDT, USDC, which are cryptographic representation of USD. And what's more interesting is that everyone's afraid of crypto. Everyone has ever heard, yeah, you're going to get robbed of your crypto, the e-wallet are not safe, or there's too much volatility. But what you need to understand is that, for instance, when we're talking about USDT or USDC, they are pegged 1-to-1 to the USD. So whatever the USD will do, the USDT will mimic. So what we're seeing right now is a lot of African players that are having issues in getting these G8 currencies. What they are doing is that they are moving to the cryptographic representation, the digital version of these currencies, and using them in international trade. I have some clients in your own country, Nigeria, that are using it. We have clients in Tanzania, in Mozambique, in various countries of Africa that are using crypto to move and to allow payments worldwide. However, some players are blocked by intermediary banks, and that's what's interesting with crypto, is that there's no link with banks, even though the representation it is pegged on the dollar. So the dollar moves up or down, the digital representation will do the same. So this is the new trend we're seeing, and that's why I'm linked to two hybrid securities exchange in Seychelles and Mauritius that are doing such thing, and we can see how that trend is affecting a lot of their business, because they're getting blocked even by banks, their own banks in the country, to get access to USD or to euros. And by using those digital assets, it helps them a lot in dealing with their international payments.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Faiz. So so that brings us to the conclusion of this first session. So if you do want to stay behind to address any questions that we would have, that would be fantastic. So quickly, I would move in and speak with I'll speak with Anita, I'll speak with Ayodele and Abayomi. So speaking with Anita, thank you so much for still staying on. And yes, and I can see that you've been active on the chat box. So fantastic. So like I mentioned when we started this conversation, was the fact that we had the African Family Business Summit, which was a gathering of practitioners within the African ecosystem, that are family businesses, that are family business executives, founders, matriarchs, patriarchs, as well as next gen. And it was a very wonderful session, discussion over 2 days that we had, and with experts coming in and breaking down how you could govern your family into the future. Anita couldn't be part of that, but she very well knew that that was going on. So Anita, just speaking about governance within the family business space, I want you to just talk about the why, the what, and the how. When you're considering governance within the family enterprise or the family system space, what are those things that you should consider in that respect? So Anita, if you could join us, that would be fine. I can't see you. I can't hear you.
Yes, I'm here. So thank you, Mercy, for inviting me. And it was wonderful to meet the other participants. So thank you very much indeed. Before I start, Mercy, can you give me an indication of time? Because I know that we're time limited and I don't want to overrun I can talk about this all day, every day. So you know how much time
so Anita, you have the next 10 minutes. So by 5, so you have the next 10 minutes to kind of just walk us through the why, the what, and the how when it comes to family business governance and any trends and dynamics that you have encountered. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk in a way that makes sense, that is what I believe in. As an experienced family business entrepreneur, I've run my own family business. I've run 4 family businesses and now have one with my daughter. I'm also an accredited, advanced, certificated family business wealth advisor and family business advisor. So I just want to lay my stall out there. And I'm quite old. I'm 66 this year. So I've had some life. I have experienced life, you know, the good, the bad, and the insane, really. So let's get cracking. I think that before we start on governance, my contribution is going to be that it is part of a bigger picture, because the speakers we've had before have been very, very focused, expert at what they do, and that's quite right. But as a practitioner, it's all about life. And what I would say, first of all, are quite fundamental things. One is, you can always get another business, you cannot get another family. The other is this: as sure as eggs is eggs, there is going to be tax and death. And the third thing is that you have to know why you're in it. So that's really, really important. So before we talk about governance, I just want to say that the 6 essential ingredients to the success of a family business that is looking to the next generation are, firstly, 1, stewardship and responsibility to wealth. What do you, from your perspective as a next gen, as a senior, as a 2nd, a 3rd, 4th, 20th generation, what do you see as your responsibility? Not with your parents, not anyone else. What is your responsibility to wealth? And how can you be a steward? Because if we're talking about family business, we're talking about the future. And we're not going to build it and sell it and flog it. We're actually thinking about the next generation, because that's what stewardship's about. The other is governance. Yes, it's very, very important to understand governance, but I don't like that word particularly. I would rather say policies that contribute to governance, because your policies will determine the governance you have, and those policies are determined by your values. Why are we doing
fantastic?
Okay. The third will be around leadership, because there can only be one leader. So, you know, a lot of discussion around leadership. Who is the next leader? We've seen that with Succession on Sky, and we've seen it with Yellowstone and many others. So leadership is very, very important. The next is conflict and communication. We know that the only things that prevent a family business going to the next generation are two things. One is communication, the other is governance, okay? But
the lack thereof.
The lack thereof of communication about the things that are uncomfortable. Okay, we're talking about money, relationships, families, connections. So conflict, and how do we manage those conflicts? And communication we set up from the very, very beginning. Or how do we decide to mend and build on what we have got so that we don't have to start from scratch? Because, you know, my job is to meet people where they are. The next is going to be around succession, because there will always be succession. We will all die, you know? It's so that how prepared are we to prepare our next generation, or the next generation of leaders? And they may be family, but they also may be non-family. You know, it happens a lot, because we only know what we don't know, you know, we only know what we know. And the other is, of course, we're talking about families of considerable wealth. So what part does a family office play in this? What type of family office is it? Is it one that moderates and manages? But does it also include meeting other family businesses to arrange enterprises to do business? Is it reaching out to institutions? And what part does it play in the development of the next generation? Okay. So they're really the main things that I think are the essentials for any family business. And by hook or by crook, that's what I'm on this earth to do, is to help those, because I don't know if our viewers know, but roughly 30% of family businesses make it from G1 to G2 in the world. Only 12% make it from G2 to G3. Only 4% make it from G3 onwards. So that's a whole pile of responsibility there. That's a whole lot of money. That's a whole lot of economy. That's a whole lot of people's lives, you know, that are in that space. And you mentioned at the very beginning, between 70 and 80% of the GDP is provided by family-run enterprises, big and small. So I just want to start with that. Before we talk about governance, just one other thing, that business is personal, okay? And if we have a family business, we have to look after the family and business in equal measure. We often hear people say family first or business first. You know, it's up to you. And there isn't a right or one or wrong way, but people only join family business for 5 reasons. The name is above the door. They have a passion for the family business. They're aware that the family, it provides for the wealth of their parents, and it provides a wealth for themselves. And the last thing, 5 is the 5th one, is they can't get a job anywhere else. Now you can take that from a start, second gen, or a wealthy family business. Okay, it's all there. It's all there. It is a mishmash of stuff. Beware anyone that thinks they can solve it by having the right legal structures, the right financial structures. It just doesn't work there. We have to know why we're doing this. What are our values? So the story is often very lost. So the story of our ancestors, what sacrifices they made, what innovations did they do, all right? Because by the 3rd generation, they're very, very often forgotten because of what's going on at the moment. So governance. Governance really to me is as a result of communication. What do we think of the things we talked about? That goes into governance, all right? And I would suggest then there is a family constitution, but I would prefer to call it a blueprint. And I like easy peasy language. I'm not an academic, so I can't be blinded by anachronisms and expert speak, doesn't speak my language. So I always implore experts to speak in a language that anyone can understand, because otherwise we switch off, particularly the next gen. All right, they can get everything from Google. They can network around it's a global village now. All right, so don't think for 1 minute as a family it is fenced. It's not. It's not. It's not. All right. So there were two elements you wanted me to talk about. One was family council and family business. And I've always tried to encourage my family businesses to be more of a business family than a family business. Okay. Now, the reason we have family councils is because the business of the family just gets on with it. It's a business. It's got to make profits. It's got to, you know, grow. It's got to pay, you know, and it's got to develop and train and. Okay. So you can't be emotionally involved in the business. And very often, if it's not separated by having a family council, the board meetings can just disintegrate into a mush of stuff that's got nothing to do with business and everything to do with why you don't get on with each other. So the council is set up whereby the family members from around the world, wherever they are, whichever generations, you appoint just maybe a handful. Maybe there may be, I don't know, between the smaller the group, the better it is. And it's not for me to decide, it's for the family to decide. Key members in the family that can come together, that understand the values, understand where the family business is going, understand what's important, to ensure that the business follows in those footsteps. All right, and then appoint one person that straddles between the council and the business, okay, and can report back. All right, the council's job is to ensure that the business adheres to the values, the legacy, the vision of what the family wants. All right. So that's quite hard to do because, you know, if it's your baby and if it's your sister or if it's your cousin or if it's your mum, if your dad, everyone wants to be in the council. But the other good thing about the council is that there can be places assigned for people within their council to do specific things. So in the council, there might be someone looking after next generation development, philanthropy, training, networking, communication, and so forth. Because again, all of that working together adds for good communication and takes out the I didn't know, I didn't think, I thought that, I misread. Okay. The family assembly is for the whole family. And that means that if you have a big family, like some people have family assemblies because they've got the same name and they might be Irish and it might be the O'Briens meet every 10 years and the family get together, you know, and meet each other. But the assembly really is for all of the family members to participate. And its role is to be a family, get to know each other, understand what's happening in the business, because at the end of the day, they will benefit. Okay, because the biggest disease in a family business is entitlement. I hope you'll agree. Entitlement is a huge, huge problem. Okay, if you haven't earned it, why are you entitled? So stewardship is really important. So family assembly allows the family council to talk to the family assembly about what's going on with the business, what's happening in the economy, what's happened with next gen, what are the trends, what are the roles that are available for family members to be involved? How does a shareholding work? What do you have to do to become a shareholder? Because don't forget, there are 3 parts to this, aren't there? There is your perspective as family owner, but you might not work in the business. There is perspective for somebody that's in the business and an owner. And there is somebody that works in the business but doesn't own any shares. All right. So I like the word perspectives very much because it's about listening to people's perspectives, not telling them how they need to do it right. So really, that's my view on governance. It's much, it's about education, it's about life, it's about legacy, the story. How do you want to leave the world a better place? I really believe in wealth generation, because I believe the more money you earn, the bigger the impact you can make on the world. As you mentioned about Warren Buffett, a family business, and of course we've got Richard Branson, a family business, the JCBs of the world. They can do so much for so many people that have so little. But then also as an internet, as a tech-based economy, things they are changing very fast, very quickly, and you cannot disregard that for the next generation. There are some family businesses who are determined that I built this business for you, you are coming into it whether you like it or not. But Dad, I don't want to be in the building industry. I'd like to have to be a ballet dancer. Mum, I really, really want to set up another business, but I want to make it a business that's in esports. Fine, do the research, find it out. Maybe part of our governance is that we do sponsor new ideas and innovation. And this is the criteria from which you can go and get that help. So it is a huge, huge thing. And there is no one starting point. So I start with 6. And also my pillars for family business are not in any business textbook, okay? And those are love, kindness. When was the last time you as a business owner were kind to yourself, all right? Because everyone wants you. Agility, the agility to be able to change, the flexibility for the new economy. And more so, this is just the beginning, don't forget. Creativity, and that, I mean, how can you have to be able to think creatively about problems, think creatively about ideas, think creatively about the family. Passion, that's your why. Why do you have a passion? If you haven't got a passion, get out. Get out of here. Get out of the city. Get out of Dodge. You don't have passion for it. The other is joy. If you don't have joy in your life, then what is the point? All right? You don't have joy. And the other really is grit. Determination, grit, to be here and see it all through. They are major things that you don't see in a textbook and a business book. In my experience, that's been the hardest thing, particularly for men in family businesses, because they're the hunters, they're the ones that got all the, they've got the power, etc. The women are coming into their own. They're coming into their own because they are aware of the things that nurture love, kindness, and all the things I've said. But they're not soft skills. It's crap. I hate that. They're essentials. They're essentials. Be kind to someone. When were you kind to yourself? All right? Treat someone how you want to be treated. Make sure you surround yourself with people that share your values. Make sure you surround your people with people that know more than you do. So are experts. It's really important. But at the heart are, understand why we're here, what are our values, before we even look at governance, assemblies, la. So I hope that expresses different perspective on this, because, we need fantastic expertise, but we don't start with that. There you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anita. I'm going to come back to you, but so we are overshooting our time here. So I'm going to ask everyone to, if you can, to stay for the next 15 minutes, and we promise to round up. immediately. So Anita, I will come back to you for your concluding comments. But in this, now I'm going to ask Ayodele, and I'm going to ask Ayodele and Abayomi. Thank you so much for your patience. But it's really very essential that we get the, what the conversations are all about. We are able to bring that out, and we are able to highlight that, spotlight that as much. So, Ayodele, if you could, we just want you to just speak to the anxiety. So for us, we've had a lot of anxieties. Our clients have expressed anxieties and concerns, given just what's going on. I mean, we're looking at the Nigerian economy, but if you want to talk about it from even the global perspective, what is really going on, that would be great. And the impact that these headwinds, whether it's inflation, whether it's, just call it whatever it is, protest, the next gens coming into the conversation and all that. So the impact is had on individuals, families, and their wealth. What would you say would be the action point? Because really, there's no point in panicking, but really, what are the actionable items that affluent families, individuals, and family businesses can take to be able to address these headwinds that are coming their way willy-nilly?
All right, Mercy. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Thank you for your
great.
patience.
I just wanted to be sure.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to touch on three things, and then that will spur the conversation. I'm also very mindful of time, so I'll make it very on point. To start with, if we look at the world we live in today, there's a lot of uncertainty. I think the biggest one on our bucket list is the US election coming up in November. And that's particularly important because the world markets, everyone wants certainty. Markets will definitely pull back in the world of uncertainty. So that's something to look out for. And I think you highlighted that in your earlier, introductory remarks. The second thing is to focus on the economic blocks that are evolving. BRICS is one to look at. The Asian economy is another one to look at. An Africa Continental Trade Agreement, which we've talked about extensively, and how that metamorphosizes into the African economy that everybody has been touting as a new economy for growth, or the catalyst for global growth. So those are key themes that we need to watch. If you look at Africa, again, you mentioned it. Kenya, youths, not particularly Gen Z, but I'll say the youth are now becoming more involved in governance by demanding accountability, which I believe is a key ingredient for democratic rule, for democratic governance. Same implies with Ghana. Just yesterday, I saw youths protesting and demanding for more from their government. And of course, Nigeria today is very significant because there's the protest out there that has stalled most economic activities, and people asking, demanding for more from the government. Now, if you look at the Nigerian economy or the macroeconomic environment in Nigeria, I think there are 3 or 4 things to highlight. The first one is inflation. Inflation is already at 34.1%. which means that people's purchasing power has been significantly eroded. And you were very right when you complained about hunger in the land. Food inflation in itself is way above 40%, and that is fueled by the issues around others, farmers' inability to provide food and insecurity challenges, plus the bottlenecks of bringing food from northern Nigeria to southern Nigeria. So that's one area that is very pertinent that I believe that the government has to look into critically. The other one is exchange rate. Exchange rate is already at 1,600 last I checked. That's a huge depreciation from just December last year, where it was trading around 1,000 naira. So the issues, idiosyncratic issues with Nigeria are quite there, and they're germane, and it's not surprising that people have gone on the streets to demand for more. Oil production, which is Nigeria's mainstay, even it's increased a bit, currently at 1.2 million barrels per day. But we also know that the government has used, sort of used some of it for borrowings and pledged it. So the picture of the Nigerian economy is sort of worrisome. And this has led to, the uprisings or the concerns that we see within the Nigerian economy. And there's no better time to speak to your clients or potential investors on what next, what should we be doing? I think to cap it all up, unfortunately, there's no one size fits all. People have to look at their peculiarities and make decisions on their peculiar situations. The first thing I would say is that for individuals, you need to go back to the concept of financial planning. What are my immediate short, medium, and long-term needs? And what are the risks? And what do I have in my hand to meet those short, medium, and long-term needs that I have, or goals, as you may want to call it? I think that's the first most important thing. The second thing is that for emergency purposes, you need to create a buffer, at least 3 to 4, if possible, 5 to 6 times your monthly revenue or your monthly income or your monthly expenses should be in a buffer, because you just never know how things can turn. That's that for families. For businesses, for family businesses, I think the first and most important thing is to go back to your business model. Look at your business model, look at how you're operating. How do I bring in operational efficiency into my business? If there's an opportunity to share services, please go ahead and do that. How do I bring in cost optimization into my business? Those are key things that family businesses should do at this time. And then more importantly, within my business model, how else can I generate revenue? Now, if you're generating revenues and you are able to look at revenues that are somewhat in, hard currency, like the dollars, pounds, euros, those currencies are more stable, then by all means, this is an opportunity for you to consider looking at your business model and altering things to attract those sort of revenues. I think it was Loius that spoke extensively about the developments within the Africa Continental Trade Agreements and the developments around the different zones within Africa. I think this is a very good time to align as businesses, align with what the AFCTA is doing, and see how you can, really position your business to tap into other markets. There's no telling that the purchasing power, even based on the picture that I've tried to sort of paint, there's no telling that the purchasing power of individuals in Nigeria has sort of declined, even though we have a huge population. But you are beating on the currency side. So it makes sense to look at how to attract, insulate yourself from the currency challenges or the economic headwinds in Nigeria and look at other markets. So I'll try and leave it for now. I'll let other speakers speak because I know we're pressed for time, but I'll be very glad to come back and highlight some areas that I think that we can, look at as investors or as participants within the African market. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. Abayomi, if you're here, do you want to chip in? Okay. Abayomi is not yet on the mic. So please, please go ahead and let's have those key pointers that we should be working on. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So in terms of family businesses that are, quote unquote, looking for opportunities, just to backtrack a bit, my own experience is in wealth management. I dealt primarily with traditional assets before I moved into the alternative asset space. And one of the things that I've heard over time, from investors is really what next, what next, what next. We've done equities, we've done fixed income, we've looked at our portfolios, we've done our financial plans, what next? And that opens the door for you to look at alternative investments. In summary, alternative investment is anything that is outside equities, fixed income, traditional fixed income securities, and cash. So to put it in proper context, alternative assets will be your land, you know, whatever is on top of the land and beneath the land. So you call it real estate or commodities. That's alternative assets. Alternative assets could be private capital seeking for opportunities in businesses from a private equity perspective or from a private credit perspective. And alternatives would also be your cryptocurrencies, you know, things that are just unique and different from the investment world that we know it today. Now, Africa today, one of the things that we grapple with is really infrastructure. Infrastructure deficit in Africa is major. And one of the trends that we all know that we all talk about today is AI, artificial intelligence. But if you layer that up and you look at the trend of African youth now beginning to demand for more, what you typically will find is that governance, maybe not immediately, but as we move down the line, African countries will now begin to, you know, meet the expectations of their populace. That's what uprisings such as this will bring. And I've highlighted what has happened in Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana just yesterday. There's also always this dichotomy about what is going on in East Africa and West Africa. East Africa claims to be the engine catalyst of Africa, but the development and growth we really see is around East Africa, while West Africa continues to claim to be the catalyst for growth. So let's juxtapose all of that. Now, artificial intelligence is critical, and the world as we know it today is beginning to play that AI game. So therefore, Africa needs to step up its game. Youths demanding a bit more. If you just juxtapose that as a family business or an investor looking at Africa, then it does make sense for you to look at AI infrastructure or digital infrastructure. That's where I see that catalyst for growth across other segments. So infrastructure would focus on AI infrastructure. The other side of it is real estate, but from a health perspective, digital laboratory sciences, etc., just providing infrastructure around that space. Even with education, providing infrastructure around education. So those are areas where I think that investors or family-owned businesses that are looking for investment opportunities within the alternative space should look at. Loius spoke about rail system transportation within Africa, connecting the entire Africa together. That's another interesting play. So for me, in a nutshell, I think that what we see in Africa today, with people demanding more, people now understanding that we can hold our government accountable, people now comparing what is going on, because again, you talked about Japan, a lot of people moving into Europe, people now comparing their life today with their peers that have traveled into these other countries. All of that, if you juxtapose it, I don't think there's a better time than now to drive the whole conversation around an African economic bloc, around family business plugging into that economic bloc, around creating alternative investments, either through infrastructure or what have you, to create that capital, that capitalist environment for businesses to thrive. So that's where I think we are. And I think that this sort of conversations creates that platform to educate people and encourage more of us being more involved in the African growth story. I'll pause for now and then, you know, I'll come back with more when you have.
Yeah, fantastic. I was going to ask you a follow-up question that I had was going to be, how do you bring alternative asset investment into the overall portfolio of a family business while also managing the risks? That was a question that we had from one of our participants, but you've already addressed that. and you've done so eloquently, just taking a cue from the AFCFTA, what we can do locally, how we can key into the headwinds that are there, whether it's the agitation for good governance, whether it's the agitation for a more vibrant African bloc that we can trade in and also create wealth in. So very, very well articulated. So thank you so much for those and for emphasizing what our clients, their families and their businesses should be looking out for, whether it was within the AI, the digital space and all that. So very well. Thank you so much for that. So I will just go back to Anita as we round up, and I'll ask Anita to just let us know, give us your concluding, you have about 1 minute, give us your concluding comments, and let us know if there are any trends and dynamics that you want to highlight for family businesses and individuals and families that are on the call today.
So two things.
Yes.
Family businesses, the ability to really listen to everyone in the family, listen to the older generation, listen, the older ones to the next generation, listening, but not hearing, listening. That's the first thing. The second is to be agile enough to take on what things are going to be thrown at us in this new world, because it's faster, it's faster, it's faster. So this ability to be agile and know and to understand what it might take for us to do those things and be successful for the next generation. And thirdly is be the change you want to see in the world. There you go. That's from me.
Yeah. Thank you, Anita. Okay, so Ayodele, you want to have you have concluding comments for us, and any other thing you want to share with us? So yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. So I mean, I think overall, I'll say that the opportunities in Africa is massive. There's no telling that. I'd also say that the youth population supports the fact that global growth in the not distant future will be driven by the performance of Africa and key African economies. Again, for me, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement provides a platform where countries can trade and take advantage of the peculiarities or the opportunities that exist in Africa. So my view, and I'm sure a lot of us on this call share the view, is that we cannot give up on Africa. This is our country, this is our continent. The opportunities are here. So we must take advantage of the opportunity. And I think that has started with people getting involved in the democratic process of the independent nations. Getting involved is not just by going to vote. Voting is just the first step of that democratic involvement. Immediately you vote and you sit, you now need to get involved by holding the key participants or the key leaders accountable, both at the national, subnational, and at the local government levels. And when you get involved and you demand, you ask for accountability, and you use the instrument of a constitution to call back people that are performing below par, then we will start to see countries within Africa that are beginning to stand up to what we expect of them. So that'll be my closing remark for everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Abayomi, if you are on and you can hear me, do you want to take your comments now? Abayomi?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay,
yeah,
fantastic.
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah.
So I don't really has touched on the impact on the economy, and I feel like I'll just ride on what you said. Basically, currently the GDP in Nigeria shrunk by 16.1% in Q1. And we also talked about like the level of inflation currently and the impact it has had on the cost of living, the cost of doing business. And this has led to a lot of uncertainties, for business making projections, right? So basically, for me, just like Haya said, spreading your investments is actually important for businesses, right? That diversifying your assets, right? And I think Loius talked about like financial technology, which is a very important opportunity to actually diversify your investments. There's also the opportunity in tourism and agriculture. So these are areas that most people are not looking at, and also spreading your assets into different geography just to mitigate risk. And Messi, you talked about like the trend of jack buying, right? So basically, I feel like that's also leading to people thinking about investing outside of your home country, right? So that way you're able to hedge against whatever issue, whatever economic challenge that you're facing in the currency, in the country that you're located in. And the thing that tries from this is that helps you hedge against whatever economic challenge you're facing, and also helps you go about your long-term planning, just like Hayat also talked about, basically.
Okay, thank you so much. So do you want to write us out of this session, Abayomi? But before you do, I just want to say thank you to everyone. I want to say thank you to Ayodele for staying with us and for sharing so much, so much insightful comments and so much insightful nuggets for us to take as family business owners. You spoke about the AFCFTA and looked at the alternative asset investment space on how families can actually manage their risk and all the uncertainties that they are having right now, how they could look at other ways in which those concerns that they have can be addressed. And Africa really is where we should be in the next, it's being projected anyhow you look at it. The youth population we have, the potentials for growth, and if we have this uprising that is demanding for governance, it only means that we should double down and do the work and make sure that we have an Africa where the wealth of Africa is actually exploited for Africans, and we can all thrive as Africans. So, and also to say thank you to Anita as well. I think it was fantastic just listening to you and the wealth of experience that you bring when it comes to the governance space, family businesses, and all that you do. It's just been absolutely fantastic. And we can all reach out to everyone that has been on this call. We can reach out to them via LinkedIn, via their email addresses. It's all available. You can start a conversation with them. If you want us to come in and be able to do any other thing, collaborate work, we are also available as team of professional client experts and family business advisors to also work with you. So thank you so much as we allow Abayomi to ride us out of this session now.
Thank you very much, Messi. I would say a lot have been said, right? And if we have all the time, we'll go on and on and on. But it's been a very, very impactful session. Thanks to all of the panelists, right? And I would say that part of the key takeaways would be embracing planning and succession, right? The impacts of AI, globalization, and cross-border considerations is extremely important. Digital transformation and innovation, which has come to stay, right? I remember Faiz talking about interest in digital assets. Families are beginning to explore that area as a means to diversify their investments and also more like for growth. So it's been a great session. A special thank you to everyone that has been a part of this. And we would like to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude being a part of this. A special acknowledgement also goes to the remarkable team of Fiduciary Services Limited, led by Messi herself, for organizing this impact. And to everyone that has been able to join and participate, as he said, thanks to you. We trust you from today, and you would be able to, apply that to your respective organizations, even personally. We always say, right, these conversations are not a conclusion, right? It's a continuation, and we invite you to stay connected with us. We promise to make more engaging and thought-provoking, right? So, of course, this is biannual. You information on when the next one would be holding. Of course, the anticipation is already there, and we eagerly look forward to having you be a part of this. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Anita, you want to say something? Yeah? Okay.
Say that well done for organising this, Mercy, because it's not easy. And I think Abayomi, you're quite right. This is the beginning of a conversation. It's not the end in itself.
Absolutely.
No,
absolutely.
As long as businesses have existed since the word dot, the issues that they surround themselves with have never changed. They're just bigger and more complex. So it's an ongoing.
Absolutely.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So
thank
details
you,
of our
everyone.
website are on the notes, so you could check for more information. You could, read up and, reach out to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
everyone, for being a part of this. Yeah, bye-bye now. Thank you. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Anita. Thank you.
Bye.